Hello, Las Vegas. My name is Mel Tiller, and you're listening to Keeping It 100 with Madelyn Rhodes, sponsored by the 100 Black Men of Las Vegas. What they see is what they'll be. Today's guest is Miss Madelyn Rhodes, and she is the founder of the advocacy group called SanMan. Madelyn, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Madelyn, you head an advocacy group. Tell us about your group and exactly what that organization does.
SanMan Community Advocacy Firm stands for See a Need, Meet a Need. And so we advocate for individuals, be it in housing, be it in the residential area, not just within housing walls, but we also advocate for pets. We advocate for elders, those that are disabled, disadvantaged communities, and those who are basically needing someone to advocate for their civil right to live, not just to survive.
You have done a lot of research and you're working with a lot of people who live in housing provided by the Southern Nevada Regional Housing Authority. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. And in our prior conversations, we came up and we talked about a number of issues that you have found and a number of issues that people are having. Issues such as illegal evictions, unnecessary evictions, how people are being treated, additional fees being added. Let's talk a little bit about what we will call unnecessary evictions, meaning people who have been evicted and you believe and your organization believes that these issues could have been handled differently. Tell us about that.
Absolutely. These situations and these evictions that have transpired lately are actually running rapid. I'm seeing a whole lot of these notices going up on people's doors, which brings alarming concern because a lot of people over here are low income. And so if we're having these coming up, you guys are already adding additional fees serving us on top of the fee of us being late, and so last year, about 2021, actually around that time, 2021, 2022, there was a fiscal year biannual change. And during that plan, they said that they would remove the 30 days to basically where 30 days could pass before you would see a 30-day eviction notice. Well, some residents are finding 30-day notices 7 days, 11 days after the month versus that full 30 days lapse, which exasperates a lot of people's health issues, their monetary issues. They're now stressing because they're now having a fee on top of the eviction and they don't know and have the proper guidance when it comes to why they're receiving it. Especially when this policy that was changed by the Housing Authority has not been lifted according to policy changes that has not transpired. So a lot of them are having these things and situations. And we actually have a couple of residents that are with us right now that can give their story as to what they've been incurring and having that's going on in their lives when it comes to these fees and transitional eviction notices.
Please introduce your guests and let's hear their stories.
Yes, today we have Miss Shamoya Lacy, and we're going to go ahead with Miss Shamoya Lacy so you can give your story about what your process has been like.
I'm Shamoya Lacy. I want to speak currently. I am just went through an eviction that I took I did procedures and protocol as far as I know on trying to stop my eviction, which you go put in a stay with the court to stay and try to fight the eviction. But due to management and their bosses, they don't follow protocol, meaning I was served a 30-day, 2 days before they locked me out of my place, which means you have to give me a 30-day, then you have to give me a 24 after the 30-day. They did not follow protocol. So when I went to serve this day, I was at work.
Are you telling us that you were evicted after a 2-day notice?
Yeah, so I got a 30-day, and that was like at the beginning of the month. I went in the office, asked what it was about. She told me to put in a informal hearing, which is a procedure that we take prior to, like, if you get a 30-day, you can put in an informal hearing to contest it, to see why, what's going on, why is this notice. I did that. The office manager did not show up to our meeting. So when I got to the meeting, she wasn't there, gave me a paper to reschedule. I told them I couldn't make that meeting because I had to be at work. I had other affairs, so on and so forth. They called her on the office manager on the phone, told her, she said, I will be in contact with you to reschedule the meeting. So a couple days later, never heard from them, contacted them back. They never called me back. The next week, I had a 2-day notice saying that I was going to be locked out the next day. So on the 4th, they told me they put a 24-hour, and the next day they were locking my son out. So I had to leave from work that day. That day I proceeded to put in a stay. It was a weekend. So the following week, that Monday, Tuesday, I was notified that they didn't grant the stay. They denied it. But the office manager called the constable to check and see if they had came out to evict me, which is not protocol. Once you put in an eviction, it's not protocol for the office manager to call and follow up with it, because it's no longer her problem once it goes to a court. So that was one way I knew it was personal. Prior to that, I already knew it was a personal matter. It had nothing to do with legitimately me not paying rent or me not doing what I was supposed to do, because I proved that to them. When they served this eviction, I said, can you show me where and it was over $8. I said, can you show me where I owed $8? Now, I don't believe someone should be evicted over $8, but this is what they did.
And we're saying
So
$80.
$8. So the $8 turned into $1,800 when I came to the meeting. So I said, okay, now I went from $8 to $1,800. So I did my own research. I started looking into this paperwork that they filed. The paperwork that they filed to the courthouse on the eviction, it had no date, and the name was misspelled, but it still went through the system. Okay, they had no date from the office manager who filed this eviction, stating that she prior did her protocol, which was serve me a 30-day, saying that I didn't respond, so on and so forth. The paperwork she submitted said that I had not paid rent from the day I moved in their complex, which was 2 years ago. I gave 125 pieces of paper that proved that they were wrong for what they did. Recorded phone calls, recorded meetings stating that they understood and seen that, but they were not going to overturn my eviction, which left me homeless now. I lost my job that I had with the gaming job that paid good money, that could put me in a position to be better from where I am. And they took that from me. I still fought for 32 days for them to have me come to meeting after meeting after meeting, and still did not overturn it. They only wanted me to provide this paperwork to know what proof that I had moving forth, because they knew they had on several levels messed up. So now I'm currently still homeless, looking for a place to stay, looking for a job, and I'm still fighting this situation with them, because I believe that me and a lot of other people need justice, because just right there, they never followed protocol, but you guys still evicted me and tried to force me to prove what I was stating against them, which they don't do their job. They discriminate based on race. They discriminate based on whether it's male or female. If they have personal problems against you, they discriminate on several different levels. And we're already in a low income, or either some of us have Section 8 or some of us have housing. If we're in a program that's based on your income, if you don't have a job, you have no income. They have to base it and give you a 30% of what your income is. And if I don't have any income, that means my income is at a zero balance. So how can you serve someone in eviction on something that there's no rent to base it off of?
Understood. Madelyn, I understand you have another guest that also has a story about eviction.
Yes, I have another guest, and she is from a scattered site location. She is not a Marble Manor resident. She is not a resident that stays in conventional housing, but she's at a scattered site. So she was living in a home in which the housing authority owned. Miss Iyana Snow, if you don't mind telling your story, thank you for being here.
Hi, my name is Iyana Shaw. I was a resident of the Scattered Sites Department and under public housing, and I was locked out of my unit on the 8th. They put a lockout notice on the 7th. I was aware of my eviction, but they told me they were going to be working with me because they were aware of my disability. They've gotten all my paperwork from my doctors. All my doctors have sent them letters stating about my disability. And yet I was still evicted with 2 children. So I wasn't aware of the eviction process. When I reached out to the manager, he was not very informal about what I should be doing or shouldn't be doing. Was not trying to assist me at all far as to how to try to keep my place of residency under public housing. I know when he got in office, he made a statement to me, why have I been on housing so long? I shouldn't be on housing as long as I had been on housing, was his statement to me. So to me, he was trying to get me out of there regardless. So yeah, that's pretty much my story. Like I said, I'm disabled, so my income was 0. There was a point where I was working, but they had raised my rent so much, even when we were working, it was almost impossible for me to pay it.
Thank you very much for your story, Ms. Shaw. Madelyn, there are some other issues that we need to talk about. Apparently, you tell me that many of the managers or supervisors are rude, short, disrespectful, and use intimidating language, and they use improper behavior toward tenants who have issues. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, about, I would say even May the 28th, around Memorial Day, we had an emergency resident meeting. And it wasn't just for Marble Manor, it was for residents of housing in general. And so when we had that meeting, approximately about 30 residents or so showed up. And amongst the ones that was in the Marble Manor community, when there was a comment brought up about the front office management, and everybody's hands went up like, oh, Monica, so they did list a person's name. And so when we have multiple people saying the same thing and they don't live in the same house, but they're saying the same thing about the same person, we have to start looking at that and seeing what is the real problem. So we're having a lot of residents saying that they're being very rude, disrespectful, very short, even at times displaying people's personal business loudly in conversation while others are around, and which caused embarrassment. People do not like the way they're being treated. They're feeling as if they're being treated less than, belittled, and as if they're not valued as a person when they are here. When they go to the front office, they feel like they need to have representation of what we look like inside of the front office, and we don't ever see that. And so and so we're having the large disconnect in communication when it comes to how people should be treated. Apparently ethics class should be taken again, because if these are the people that we're serving and we're doing customer service, then you need to know how to serve the people correctly. And
when you are having these issues with your direct supervisors, direct managers of the property, what recourse do you have?
The recourse that happens is basically people are told they can come up front, they can put a complaint, but we don't ever know what the resolve is when a person puts in a complaint, because there's nothing happens, you know. And this is the issue that a lot of residents say, well, they're not going to do nothing. They don't ever do nothing. We've complained about this. They keep them in the front office on purpose. And so this continues to discourage people from continuing to speak up about the injustices that are done wrong to them. This keeps them from coming and showing and speaking up, because now they feel like they're never going to get heard, because if management don't do anything about the people that's causing this issue in the front office, then they can't get to the help that they need in the first place.
So you're telling me that the complaints, the written complaints, first go to the manager whom you're complaining about.
Correct. So they're supposed to go to the manager that you're complaining about, and you let them know. I always tell everybody, document everything. Documentation is everything. So if you go up to them and you want to make a complaint, document that complaint, get a copy, and you keep a copy for yourself. Because what tends to happen is, oh, well, we didn't get that paper. Oh, well, we didn't know this happened. Oh, we don't know nothing about it. And that's all that we keep hearing, but no documentation. And so now, by the time they get to me and find out about the council on the premises, they're like, well, I'm tired. I don't want to talk about it no more. They're not going to do nothing. What if something happens to me? They start watching me after I started complaining. And so a lot of residents end up feeling like they have no voice, because here it is, the same people in the front office. It's the equivalent. I know it is. I know it may be a little dramatic, but if you really think about it, it's the equivalent of somebody keep having to face their rapist. You know what I'm saying? You keep putting me in front of the person over and over again, expecting them to treat me right. And you know they've done me wrong over and over and over again. And then you want me to face them over and over again. And then think that they're going to look out for my best interests. No.
Not going to happen.
Understood. You also talked about the charging of additional fees. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so there has been, there's residents that are complaining about additional fees like light bulbs, even to change the batteries. Some have been charged $7, some have been charged $15. Some people have been charged ridiculous amounts of fees just for the basic upkeep and maintenance of these units that are well built over in 1953, you know what I'm saying? So there are a lot of things that are hiccups and happening here that should not be put on the residents, especially in a low income area. Again, like I said, when they serve people these eviction notices, they're also taxed another fee for that. So that's an additional fee towards their rent. So now not only you have that rent, but now you have that late fee for being served. So now those fees are also accruing. So that makes it difficult because we also have to pay we have a WISP. We utilize the WISP payment system, and that system, if you do not have a direct bank account, then it charges you like $2 to $3 for you to pay your rent. So not only are you paying your rent, but you're being charged to pay your rent. You know what I'm saying? So that's ridiculous because nobody's paying their mortgage and paying to pay their mortgage. You know, when you get an increase or a raise in your job, or increase for any type of promotion, your mortgage don't go up, but ours does. So our rent goes up anytime we get an increase with income, anytime we get an increase with money change, a family number change, our rent goes up. And so this happens even in the middle of the year. It happens throughout the year because you have 10 days to which you have to report your change of income. And so now we've got to report that we got more money coming in. Now y'all want to raise up our rent and say this is what our rent is going to be. And so a lot of residents have these situations where they don't even want to tell people about the money or income because they're trying to get up on their feet. And by the time I try to get on my feet, now you want to take anything out for a fee or increase with rent, and that is not sufficient for their income.
Understood. There are so many issues that we need to talk about. Let's move to the next issue that we spoke about. Residents would also like to be hired by the housing authority to help fix up the housings and so forth that they are living in. So tell us about that.
Absolutely. So residents would like to participate in active rebuilding and reconstruction of the community. There was at a point in time a program which residents and youth on the premises could learn how to actually learn the process of landscaping, of plumbing. They were exposed to all of these things. And so by the time, all is said and done, there was short maintenance. Well, they had residents, so they had the youth in the community that was able to participate in that rehabilitation process. In the last 2 years, we've talked with different and several residents who want to participate in a more active when it pertains to the resident management corporation. And that's where the residents learn how to run and operate the whole asset in which they dwell in. So that goes from the front office, that goes to the landscaping, that goes to the maintenance office, that goes to any capacity whatsoever on the premises and property. So it will basically turn into a real estate component to where the residents can really start building a portfolio and building and doing so everything that the city and that the housing authority is applying for grants for. The residents can do that for themselves, by themselves, and rebuild for themselves by themselves. And so that's a lot of things that the residents would like to participate in that, and if they don't know about the options, then they would never go to it. And so more that people are finding out about it, the more people are interested in knowing what that process is like and how to participate in it.
I'd like to thank you for all that you're doing for the individuals in those housing areas. I'd like to thank you for your advocacy for the community. This work is obviously greatly needed. We'll go around and we'll speak to all of our guests and give you just a few moments to see if you have anything else that you would like for our listening audience to know. We'll start with Ms. Lacy.
I just want to say that we just all gotta stay focused. We gotta keep ourselves aware of what's going on around us, what's going on in our communities, and keep the faith. I mean, I'm here and I've been kicked out of my place, but it's a discomfort, it's inconvenience, but I'm still preaching. I have to. I have no choice because a lot of my livelihood has been taken and they can't take no more if I'm still standing. So I just encourage all the listeners and everyone to get involved in our community, with our people and with what's going on around us, because what it look like is not always what it is. They put on this front, but when you get behind the scenes, it's not what they say it is. So I just tell everybody to keep their ears open and keep their eyes open to what's going on around us. Give that lending hand, our voice, encouragement, education, and knowledge as far as what you know, and keep seeking that.
Thank you, Ms. Lacy. Now we'll move to Ms. Shaw.
Yes, I just wanted to say I'm so grateful for this process because I felt like I was in this by myself, and it gave me such relief to know I wasn't the only one experiencing this. And I just encourage anybody else and everybody else who is possibly experiencing this to speak up, because sometimes you feel like you're going through stuff by yourself and there's other people around you going through the same thing. And word of mouth is everything. So speak up, tell your story.
Thank you so much. And last, Ms. Rhodes.
Yes, absolutely. Again, I want to say the same thing as Ms. Shaw said as well, that that you have to speak up. If you don't say anything, nobody will know anything. And somebody's going to retell your story. If you don't tell your story, they're going to retell it and they're going to sell it however they want to, and you will not have a voice in that. And so right now, we are the ones. There are people, there are residents. We are locking arms in our community and saying, hey, we're no longer taking what somebody's saying that we should accept, but now we're saying what we want and what we are obligated and what we're supposed to be treated as human beings, humane individuals that are looking forward to a better life. And so I encourage all residents, near, far, within housing, scattered sites, all of the above, to make sure that you speak up, because though we are all in different areas, we're having the same problems. So we must address these issues at the head of it. So if you don't speak up, we cannot take care of this problem. So let's speak up and let's do something about it.
Ladies, we salute your efforts. We salute your challenges. You're being very brave in the face of some very difficult times. We greatly appreciate you. We greatly appreciate what you're doing. Thank you for joining our show today.
Thank you.
My name is Mel Tiller, and you've been listening to Keeping It 100 with Mel and Bruce, sponsored by the 100 Black Men of Las Vegas. And that's Keeping It 100.